Tak co? Franto. Není uprostřed. Já nejsem. To byl Sing Snappy, nepochopil jsem to. On vyhrál a dostal loss prevented. Nedostal za to nic. A dostal full damage. A jo.
Ground in monetary history and macroeconomics. What?
Co se děje? Aha. Dobře. OK. A zbraně kde? Nemám zbraň. Haló? Že máš livestream z Ukrajiny. Já si schovám tady v jeskyni a vyhraju to na to, že mě nikdo nenajde. Too cold, minus 9 stupňů. Jsi taky zhasnul. Webka Pavle. Franto, proč nemám čím střílet? Nakonec zdrajíš Dark and Darker, jo, no. Daj dík za ganu. Dík moc. Dobrý, okay. Nice. Já si to zrušil, ten reload. Kde je ten cápek? Prostě proběhl pod mě, jo. Aha, já už odsaď nevylezu, vylezu. Dobrý pokus. Dobrý pokus, brácho. Dobrý pokus. Aha, já jsem neměl ani scope. Jak to, že nemám ten scope na tom? To je svítilna, aha. Asi nebude pušovat, co? Já už úplně hovno, raz mi nereaguje na pluginy. Ježišmarja. Aha. Dobrý, no já tady lozit nebudu teda. Nebudu to riskovat, to bylo hodně trapný. Aspoň mi nikdo nedostal ty healy. A Franto, stahuje se ta zóna nebo ne? Nestahuje. Jau! Dostal hlavu. Co to je? Ty vole, Kde scope? Nemám scope. Tady se někdo světoval v tom chatu. OK. Pecka, dobrý. Zatím jak lovená zvěř, nesmím pohybovat, no. Někam, kde budu krytej ze všech stran. Ta jeskyně nebyla špatná. Ale vzhledem k tomu, že se tady nestahuje zóna. Aha, a nejsem vůbec slyšet. Not so funny, Jenny, děkuji ti za 14 diváků. Aha. Vidím ho, hej. Dobrý. Náboje plus, to si děláš prdel, že Ice už vystřílel. To je hajzl. Najde mě.
Herďo! Puťa!
Můj bože. Dobrý. Winter Soldier dostane saba. Už máš adminál, musíš relog. Prdele.
Mňau.
Mňau, děkuju za Risa, Pixie Simon, děkuju. Jakož funguje jediné FPS, co můžeš hrát, tak jenom dropnu tohohle. Nevypadá špatně ten rytíř, no, zase to... Já nevím, proč nemůžu udělat normálního středověkého rytíře, protože to tam furt musí kombinovat nějak s tím sci-fi. Taky to vypadá, kdyby to dělala umělá inteligence. Winter Soldier týmuje té pusy, takže žádnej sap. Já nevím. Tak já se relognu a počkám si, kdo z nich přežije jako poslední, no. A mám takový pocit, že tam někoho Franta už revivenul několikrát. Několikrát se spavnul. Lidl a Kaufland zavedou recyklování PET za slevy. Aha. Kaufland a Lidl spustí zpětný odběr petek i plechovek, místo zálohy dají slevu. Alright, dobře. OK. Klient Connect, tak. Bude zase trvat dlouho. Že tu si byl mrtvej tak dvakrát, já vím. Proč je tam furt hází tohleto? Jak si to video od The Day Before dokoukat? Jo.
Things that I want to talk about here on the channel. Well, plans changed when people started pointing out some odd things.
Já nechci cebuánštinu. Jebeti, co to je za jazyk vůbec? Cebuánština. Plano, nausap sa tihang ang mgatavo. To je nějaký africký jazyk, co?
About the trailer, such as a few store-bought assets that they didn't even bother touching up, just plopping them into the game without a single change. The fact that there looks to be a single animation cycle for zombies when they aggro the player. They all stomp their foot in identical fashion at an identical stance before charging. The overall lack of mechanics across the board.
Zombíci dupnou všichni stejným způsobem, když spotnou hráče. What the fuck?
Akao samáš.
Regy, děkuji za 9 měsíců, tej zpět. Ty krávo. To jsou prostě Unreal Engine 5 hry, no. To jsou prostě Unreal Engine 5 hry. Si vypadá to hustě, ale přitom jsou to borci, kteří si to poskládali z asetů všechno.
A lack of anything going on. Like, where are the other
Už mám
players?
kašlat na ten Rust, jo.
In this whole 10 minutes of gameplay. No events or just...
Já jsem chtěl zjistit, kdo jako vyhrál to Battle Royale. OK, hele, Winter Soldier mě prostě zabil, takže prostě to dáme jemu, no.
Things happening
a necháme to být. Příští středu to budeme mít lepší.
Dobrý večer.
On ty děkuji za 5 měsíců, vítej zpět.
World is...
Já bych nehodnotil hru před releasem. Jo, ale tady se spekuluje, jestli ta hra vůbec jako je reálná.
There anything to do beyond walking, looting, and two-shotting zombies that appear to be basically threatless? But specifically, what most caught my attention and spurred me wanting to make this video was the short sequence at the very beginning of the trailer. Easy to miss, it was only a few brief seconds, but it looked...
Oni kopírujou úplně všechno. Oni kopírujou úplně všechno, ti Rusáci. Čumte, jo? Jestli vám tohle není povědomí, tak čumte.
Very, very familiar. Turns out it looked familiar because it is nearly an exact one-for-one, shot-for-shot copy of Call of Duty's Black Ops Zombies trailer. Other than the fact that it was made in the Unreal Engine using assets for the day before, everything is identical. The exact same shot composition, the exact same style, the exact same sequence. It is just a straight rip-off, or as some may call it, an inspiration. And that is a common theme from the very first
to je český YouTuber styl. Úplně.
Reveal, the day before has had many inspirations. The immediate obvious comparison when the game was first revealed that people made came from the visuals and the setting, looking quite similar to The Division. Although that one is easy enough to wave off as it's just a realistic looking game set in a modern day post-apocalyptic city, modeled off of say some place like New York or Boston. Unless you're going with some like heavily stylized visuals or graphics, a lot of games in this setting that are meant to look realistic with modern day tech, they're just gonna look exactly like this, so fair enough. And then there was the logo, which looked familiar at first glance because it's pretty much identical as the font type and styling.
To fakt si tohle někdo všiml až teď, ty vole?
With this distressed markings as The Last of Us. This was a little strange, but not too crazy. Naughty Dog doesn't own this font after all, but given that they are similar games, both being zombie titles, it did feel a tad on the nose, but again, it's sort of easy to shrug off. But really, it was once a lot of the day before's marketing material started coming out, that things seemed a bit too similar to be pure coincidence or just to be referential. Take this shot, for example. You've got a character walking down a city street. It's pretty innocuous, right? Sort of like the visuals and setting, we can write this off because it's just a character walking down the street of a large city. But it's the composition of the whole thing that make it pretty plainly ripped off from the concept art of The Division. The angle of the shot in relation to the road, to the buildings, and to the skyline, the placement and the stance of the character who's in the foreground, as well as the other character in the background standing similarly right next to a vehicle. It's pretty obvious the inspiration they had when making this concept art for the day.
Otázka, jestli to překopíruje, nebo je to přímo vykradené. Ne, oni kopírujou, tyjo, to je prostě, já nechápu, no. To je, jak kdyby nebyli schopni mít vlastní nápad vůbec.
Day before came directly from this concept art for The Division. And there's actually quite a few other examples very similar to this. Some of them less obvious, like this screenshot here of a player being approached by zombies in a police station. It looks a heck of a lot like this screenshot from Resident Evil. I think the one that was most blatantly obvious and really told me they're clearly just ripping this stuff off is this particular shot of vehicles driving through snow on an incline with this dense forest in the background. This is quite clearly straight ripped off by this near identical looking shot from the game SnowRunner. But it doesn't even end there, because also in that sequence, the second half of it looks to be directly copied from a short sequence from the Last of Us launch trailer, which, just like the COD Zombies trailer example, this is directly the exact same sequence, the exact same things that are happening, the exact same framing, everything is the same. It's one thing to just take inspiration from other games.
Nebo je to promyšlené PR, Jakože lidi budou o tom mluvit kvůli tomu, jo. Nevím, no. Nevím. Někdo si nedělá jako easter eggy, celá ta hra vypadá, že prostě místo toho, aby vymýšleli vlastní koncepty, tak prostě akorát kopírujou to, co už existuje. Ale nevím, no.
Games to reference them or even pay homage. Like if you respect a game and you want to reference it here and there, that's understandable. It happens. It's not too crazy. But it's an entirely different thing if you're just literally straight ripping off the hard work and effort of other development teams, which is plainly what has been happening here in the day before. There are just way too many examples of the marketing of the day before that are direct copies of the marketing of other successful games. And there's probably more examples that we just haven't caught yet. These are just the ones that people have spotted so far. I'm pretty confident that more examples just like this are going to come out in the future. Okay, so they've copied a lot of stuff with their marketing, with their name, with their trailers, all of stuff. We got that, right? What about the game? Well, since I'm making this video anyways, we might as well talk about that trailer because I do think there's a lot.
To byl 10minutový trailer v gameplay a celých 10 minut tam Borka prostě pobíhal v upnutých leginách. Všichni doufali, že jim budou koukat ty lidi na prdel hlavně, ty borce. A prostě jenom tam pobíhá po tom městě a zabíjí random zombíky.
To talk about. So this was 10 minutes of raw, uncut gameplay, which mostly amounted to the character walking around, first through these suburban neighborhood, and then through parts of the city. Now, in those 10 minutes, what they did was a couple minutes of weapon customization. They opened a few containers, like some cabinets, some vehicles, and some coolers here and there. They shot exactly 12 zombies. I went through and counted them. And then there was one moment when they drank some water, which replenished what looked to be a thirst meter. I was pleased to see what appears to be this raw, uncut gameplay. This looked miles better, and it looked like actual gameplay, unlike a lot of their other previous gameplay trailers. However, this whole thing was very noticeably light on mechanics, on other players, on enemies, and once again, it makes clear.
Zase se ten muzzle je úplně Lidl, ty vole. Zase se objevil až potom, co začal střílet.
That the game's visuals have gotten a serious hit since its first reveal. So first, let's talk mechanics.
Nemám ty titulky dát pryč, čete. Nejde nějaký jiný místo, kam by šlo dát, a ty borce nevidím na prdel. God damn it.
Tak na takovou lásku se já můžu vysrat.
Nejde to,
téma,
GG.
pardon. Otázka na. Je lepší teď novější AMD procesor? Nebo Intel?
No.
Skladám PC a nemůžu se rozhodnout.
Tak to nevím, no.
Díky.
Doufám, že kdo v chatu poradí, děkuju, Showste. On teď se děkuju za 5 měsíců, Krgy OK, děkuju za 9. Děkuju.
There just wasn't a lot going on. What we saw was walking, shooting, looting, drinking, and weapon customization. That appears to be the extent of what players can do in the game. Mechanics-wise, it's pretty bare bones. I would say that this light level...
Že zrovna žena mi pomohla objektifikovat sexuálně jinou ženu. Ty vado.
Of mechanics, it just feels very dated. It's sort of what we expected from the zombie survival games from like 10 or so years ago. We're talking things like DayZ, H1Z1, and even the absolute mess that was the game War Z. These were games with really simple, minimal levels of systems that you can engage with, which were good enough back in the day because of the thrill that came from engaging with enemy players, combined with these brutal survival mechanics of losing everything if you happen to die. That was fun enough in and of itself. But when you take a look at modern day zombie survival games, they've just come a long way, offering way more depth of things to do. I mean, you got examples like State of Decay 1 and 2, World War Z, The Division, while not a zombie game.
Jo, State of Decay je single player hra, to bych s DayZkem nesrovnával. World War Z je prostě obdoba Left 4 Deadka, akorát tam střílíš těch zombíků mnohem větší počet. Zase opět žádný PvPčko. Division možná je PvPčko, ale nejsou tam zombíci. Vlastně dá se říct, že to docela dobře vychytali, protože DayZko nebo War Z, ne War Z, jak se jmenuje to druhý? Jak se jmenuje to druhý, kurva? Daisy, ne, Daisy a to druhý, jak to, H1Z1, jo, H1Z1, tak nikdo jako nepokořil za tu dobu. To jsou špatný příklady, no. Možná právě v tom to bude jako zábavný.
Is still this post-apocalyptic open world MMO where there's a ton of stuff going on, a ton of systems to engage with, and a lot of liveliness to the environment. Heck, even 7 Days to Die, which at this point is like over 10 years old, has way more going on with like deep crafting, with base building, with tower defense, and tons of sandbox elements. And when you compare these modern day zombie survival games to what you can do in the day before, which again amounts to walking around, looting containers, shooting, crafting and weapon customization and eating and drink.
Já bych řekl, že tady tenhle koncept, když udělají ty zombíky, prostě, že tam přidají nějaký speciální zmutovaný, že prostě budou větší hrozba, tak to bude bohatě stačit, protože prostě ten hardcore element, že přijde jiný hráč a vezme ti tvůj pečlivě vytěžený loot, tak bude bohatě jako zajistí ten adrenalin. Z Aerologu zjistím hovno, kód Fatal, Signal, Signu 11, kód 1, R0.
I just think that this base level alone isn't going to cut.
Tak nějak se pojistit, Franto, že když to spadne, tak se nám to takhle nedosere.
It's just not going to be enough. Now it can be like some of these modern zombie games that I referenced do have way more mechanics, but they're also mostly like single or small scale multiplayer, whereas The Day Before is being called an MMO. And if it truly lives up to being an MMO, if there are a large number of players or NPCs in any given server, these extremely light levels of mechanics and systems, they could be enough. The problem is that we really haven't seen any MMO elements. We haven't seen large numbers of NPCs. We haven't seen threatening NPCs. We haven't seen anything related to any sort of events or things happening in the world other, again, than walking around and shooting. And we haven't even seen other players. We haven't really seen PvP engagements. Let me talk about this. Some of the prior gameplay reveals reportedly were showing PvP, including that very first trailer. But given by this point how obvious it was that that first trailer was just a vertical slice, I'm not convinced that those were real players. And actual game developers have expressed similar concerns. We saw this video where they were pointing out that the character movement seemed very unlikely to be controlled by a real player, and it was much more probable just scripted AI. And I would say the same goes for that one brief.
A co to je za problém, že developeři, jo takhle jako, že to má jak bulánky, že to tam není ani nakódovaný, jo? Že to je online.
Brief short gameplay video that they released, which reportedly was showing PvP fights. I am also not convinced that those were actual PvP engagements. As of today, they are still calling this game an MMO, but given everything else that's happened with it, I would say we'll be lucky if we get server sizes of like even up to 50 players. I'm expecting very, very small scale shared world. The higher they push that number, probably the absolute worse the performance and everything is going to be with this game. And then the visuals, again, it's clearly not anywhere near that initial showcase, but this is just kind of beating a dead horse at this point. We understand that the game isn't ever going to look as good as it did during that initial teaser, during that vertical slice. Now, shortly after releasing that 10-minute gameplay video, they actually followed up with this short clip of someone playing the game.
Jo. Vím ti, lidi nevěřili tak strašně moc, že ta hra existuje, tak prostě na svůj kanál dali video, jak borec prostě sedí u kompu a má to na monitoru, tu hru.
Now, I've seen people breaking this down, saying...
Ale on má moje sluchátka. Logitech je všude. Dej jim. A i Rusáci to mají.
Like, hey, this person's inputs don't exactly line up with what's happening on screen.
That's
certainly believable with everything else that's happened with this game, but I'm not quite confident that this is a like fake live gameplay recording. I do agree though, like with much of everything else, it seems off, and it's possible that they faked this recording, but I'm not exactly sold on that. But we'll say, hey, could be the case, right? So that was that. I watched the gameplay, was a bit underwhelmed, but at the same time, I thought it was better looking than what I was expecting them to deliver. It really seems like those unpaid volunteers have been working really hard recently to try to put something together for this game. It's actually impressive how much better it looks than what I expected them to show us. Fantastic. I think you should give them a raise, really. I would at least double their pay. One more quick thing though before we move on. A few days ago, people started noticing that a handful of the assets in this recent trailer do appear to have just been purchased from asset packs, as in they didn't make them themselves. Specifically, this light truck collection looks to have been used. The yellow tow truck can be seen numerous times throughout the trailer, unaltered it seems. Every detail looks identical to that from the asset pack. They didn't even bother changing the color.
Ale dali za to $700. Teda 700 korun.
Text on the side or the front bumper. Even the number of red stripes are the same. It looks like they did pretty much nothing. The only thing that does appear to be different is the driver's side window glass is shattered out. And I spotted this exact truck, by the way, on 4 occasions in the trailer. In 4 different spots, this tow truck, as it is in the asset pack, with the exception of the shattered glass, it's there. They just like copy pasted it all over the environment. And this was just in a short clip, like a 10-minute segment, a fourth of which they spent looting and customizing. They're coming across that one tow truck quite often. It seems that company was pretty busy right up until the start of the apocalypse. Also from that same collection, we do see this cooler truck. For this, they do appear to have put at least some effort into it. They color swapped the front cab from white to orange, and it seems like they fine-tuned some things when it comes to like the front lights, the bumpers, and the side of it, but it does appear to be from that same truck collection. People have also spotted the asset pack sources for like the public service vehicles, so things like school buses, ambulances, and fire trucks. And I would say it's safe to assume that most, if not all, of the vehicles in this trailer were probably also sourced from asset packs. It's just a matter of finding where they come from. What's more though is it looks like that entire residential neighborhood where the player first explores sourced completely from a single asset pack, that being the residential houses modular packs, which were published by Prop House on the Unreal Engine marketplace, the most recent version of which just went live on December 19th, and this does appear to also be used in this gameplay trailer, which would imply that they have only added these assets into the game in the past month and a half, which makes you wonder, what have they been up to the past 4 years that they've reportedly been developing this thing? Now, beyond people online spotting the similarities, the asset pack developer themselves has come out to confirm these assets do indeed come from the packs that they made. On December 14th, they tweeted, I think I can spot some things right here, with an embedded screenshot of the day before. And then just recently on February 2nd, they said, nice to see some of our residential houses assets for Unreal Engine being used by Fantastic in the day before. Excellent use and remix of our work. Great to see. Now, people are also claiming that all of the trash and debris in the gameplay trailer looks to be sourced from this trash props asset pack, also found on the Unreal Engine marketplace. Although I am less certain of this, as I've not found many obvious examples when I looked, but maybe I need to look a little bit harder. Now, I do.
Jako co čekáte od Rusáků, že si budou dělat věci svoje? Oh shit, oh wait. Oni vlastně nemají na výběr teďka, no. Tak aspoň někde, kde mají tu možnost ještě pořád používat cizí věci, tak to musí sakra využít.
I want to make something clear. There is nothing wrong with using asset packs in your game. In fact, it is why they exist. Like, people put these packs together for developers to buy and use. It is the entire point of the Unreal Engine and other similar marketplaces. It's basically kind of like freelancing parts of the asset development process. This is not uncommon. In fact, one prime example would be PUBG. Most of that game, when it came out, was just an asset flip. They purchased asset packs, put them together in their game, and it subsequently became one of the biggest battle royales on the market. It's not unheard of. It's not even really wrong in any sense at all. There's nothing wrong with using asset packs. Again, it's why they exist. In fact, as a player, I don't even care.
Jako nikdy jsem si nevšiml, že by nějaká hra, nebo že by se v nějaký hře opakovaly strašně moc nějaký assety, které byly v minulých hrách a tak. Z toho jsem si fakt nikdy jako nevšiml. Takže mě to jako konzumentovi vůbec nevadí. Co mi vadí, tak je recyklování zvuků, to už člověk pozná, no. Třeba Wilhelm Scream, ten už se dává do všech filmů jenom tak
If
z
a company
mýmu.
is buying most or all of the assets in their game, if there is a good game there, if it's fun to play, if it mechanically feels good, if the premise is sound and there are good systems, it doesn't matter to me if someone else made the assets. But in the case of The Day Before, I am not confident in the slightest that the gameplay systems, mechanics, and everything within it, the experience of playing, will offset the fact that they are also apparently just flipping assets on top of it. I think the real thing to consider when we talk about this, because you could point to any one of these and say that's nitpicking, that's nitpicking, that's nitpicking.
Jako
In and of
trošku
themselves,
jo.
none of these things are really a big deal. It's when you add them up. Like, the fact that their logo font is the same as The Last of Us, not a big deal. The fact that they've got screenshots and artwork with the identical framing of existing games like The Division, Resident Evil, and SnowRunner, not a big deal. Store-bought assets which appear barely touched up and just plopped in the world, not a big deal. The fact that they delayed their game a month from launch, not once but twice, the first time to upgrade
Tak to
to
dělají
Unity
všechny
5,
hry, ale ty
despite which, by the way, the game's visuals degrade with every update, it seems. And the second time because of this trademark dispute. Speaking of that trademark dispute, they reportedly didn't know about this, forcing them to remove the game from Steam, delay the launch by 8 months, and then push back the gameplay reveal, which later, by the way, we did find out since
Bude zítra už kamera ten projekt. Kamera určitě, projekt, jak se přiznal Franto, tak prostě se toho furt bojím a podvědomě se mi do toho furt nechce, protože se bojím, že to nebudu prezentovat tak dobře, jak bych mohl.
Since the entire trademarking process is public, you can go look it up yourself right now. They absolutely knew that this trademark thing was an issue, likely back in August, if not at the latest in November, when they were sent a notice that their trademark was not being approved. And then, just a few days after they say the trademark dispute was the reason for delaying the game and not revealing the gameplay trailer, they sat down and spoke to IGN and said, hey, we were actually planning to delay the game prior to the trademark thing, which then means that that entire statement they published about trademarks being the reason for all those things, that was just a lie. They're like, they sat down with IGN and they were just like, oh yeah, we lied about all of that. We were planning to delay the game anyways. A week later, the trademark dispute is apparently resolved as they're able to now show the gameplay. However, the delay is still necessary and the game still hasn't returned to Steam. The fact that the developer's past work includes not one but 2 early access releases that they abandoned shortly after releasing, taking the money and basically running. And the fact that the trailer shots and compositions are identical and in the exact same order as the COD Zombies and The Last of Us trailer. You could point to each one of these individually and be like, not a big deal, not a big deal, not a big deal.
Možná to nejdřív byl Abandonware, víš co, že vygenerujou hype, zežerou prachy a pak odejdou a pak si řekli, ty vole, lidem se to hodně líbí, možná nakonec můžeme udělat tu hru jako skutečnou, no. Jak to jinak vypadá s tím Petrem Pálem, nějaké info ohledně dalšího streamu. Hele, můj manažer jim napsal, uvidíme, co odpoví.
And I would agree, but when you stack everything up one on top of each other, this exhaustive list, it's got to have us stepping back and being like, guys, this is kind of a big deal. But is it a big deal, really? Like, what's the fuss? After all, this is
Metla něco udělal. Ne, můj manažer z SUBI, Orin.
Just an upcoming zombie game from a small indie developer who, as we mentioned, does have a bad history of games. So why are we expecting anything? And we've seen a lot of games come and go on Steam like this, many of which were bad. So who cares if they're copying a bunch of stuff? Who cares if they're using store-bought assets and barely changing them? Who cares if they're constantly lying? Who cares about any of this? Well, a lot of people, apparently. In all my years, 10 plus years on this platform of talking about games, I have not followed a story about a game from such a small indie studio with such a poor history that we should have zero expectations from, that so many people seem to be so invested in. And I think it really boils down to two major things. The first is there's just huge interest in this concept. The idea of a brand new, good-looking, open-world zombie survival MMO. A lot of people find that that appealing. And the second thing is, yes, that initial trailer looked really good, which got people really excited. Personally, my interest stems not only from, yes, I would like a new game in the genre, but also just by how absurd everything is. Like, initially it was pretty simple. I thought, wow, this is a really good looking trailer for a game from a studio who's not made really good looking games before. That's pretty surprising. But then as time has passed and more has been revealed and more things have come out about the developer, about the game itself, it all has just gotten crazier and crazier. Just when I think it can't get any weirder, it gets weirder at every turn. Something else I do think we should keep in mind is situations like this are gonna happen more and more often in the future, almost solely thanks to how good looking Unreal Engine 5 is in particular. Combine that with the high quality asset market, there will absolutely be more small studios putting out trailers.
Jestli tohle se jim jako povede a bude to dobrá hra, tak to bude asi první důkaz toho, jak Unreal Engine 5 je silný nástroj.
For games
Protože jako z těch trailerů to fakt vypadá jako AAA kvalita, přitom je to indie studio.
Almost certainly going to not live up to expectations. Many of them. Some of them certainly will. We will get games by small studios that look great and play great, but we're also going to get a lot of trash. You can pretty much guarantee it. I do see a lot of claims about this game being fake, saying that it won't release, and I understand the sentiment. And I would believe it even if the studio hadn't already developed and published games. Now, they did that, but then they abandoned the first two early access releases, and they do have a game up and running on Steam right now. It's not a good game, it's got mixed ratings, but it exists, it is there, and people are playing it. So yeah, I do think they're going to release this thing, right? It's just going to be expected to be garbage. It would be surprising if it wasn't. This thing was supposed to release in under a month. The gameplay that they showed has mechanics equivalent, even less, to zombie survival games that came out 10 years ago. They haven't shown us any real evidence of this actually being an MMO. Expect bare bones mechanics, expect probably very poor performance. Expectations need to be at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the day before. You know, in one of their recent statements in speaking with IGN, they compared themselves to the misunderstood 90s action hero, saying that in the end, they would prevail, they would make a great game, and they would prove everyone who underestimated them wrong. And I wholeheartedly and sincerely hope they do that. I join the many people who wishlisted this game, hoping that it would be the next great zombie survival MMO. I have zero inclination that it will actually be that, but if they can pull it off, congratulations, you were in fact that misunderstood 90s action hero. That's it for today. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.
Ok, děkuji, že jste to přelouskali se mnou, čete. Budeš mít zítra čas probrat dnešní Rust? Jo. Už někdo dělá hru Pavel na hrad, cesta Petra na hrad a jako tam to bude postupně čistit. Vidím nevyužitý potenciál. Určitě by někdo mohl, no. Škoda trošičku, že Petr Pavel není taková mým postavička. No nic, čete, máme 11 hodin, takže program říká, že se mám navrátit do Bradavic. Takže jdem chillovat teďka u Bradavic. Ahoj Herdin, čau Čixíku. Čau. Poustek nějak říkal, že je to důkaz toho, jak dobře se nechám bejtnout na dobrou grafiku a jako o tom to je, o tom by to prostě mělo být, no. Že prostě by nemělo záležet na tom, jak moc peněz je do toho narvaný, aby ta hra vypadala dobře, ale jak moc dobrý nápad ten vývojář prodá, že jo. Jakou uměleckou message předá. Protože to dělá videohry nejlepší. Že jo. To dělá videohru nejlepší. A čím lepší nástroje budeme mít, jako Unreal Engine 5, tím více jako budou mít podíl na trhu indie studia. Ty budou v tom mít miliony dolarů a nebudou se snažit dostat z toho ty miliony dolarů zpátky prostřednictvím nekalých praktik. Jo, počkej, někdo posílá nějaký banger nebo co? To je tohle. Kotlar Security. Co to je?
Zlatičko, udělej mi kafičko! Jo, udělej to sám! Ty pičo, kde sereš? No.
Clash of the Stars. To ti tam už hrálo, jo, no. Asi jo. To je For Honor for Noobs.
For Honor is a game all about tactical, skill-based combat with proper timing, deflects, and dodges, and counterattacks, and who the fuck am I kidding? It's about smashing people's face in! Yippee! Properly timing your attacks and blocks can really make the difference between life and
To je by the way ten samý kanál, co tam byl předtím, jo. Akorát před 5 rokama. Yep. 6. Yep.
Excuse me. So, there's 3 different factions. There's the tin cans, the neckbeards,
Jo,
and
Techno
the
Viking.
weeaboos.
Welcome to the rice fields, motherfucker.
Each faction's got their own different heroes with different styles and movesets. They all play really differently. You know, like there's a slow guy with a big weapon. He'll smack you upside the head. There's the quick little assassin fucker. She'll stab you in the eye when you're not paying attention. And then there's the cowards that hide behind the shields. But none of those classes matter, because there's only one real class, the best class, the sneakiest class, the quickest class, the lethalest class. It's Genji! Hey, yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Blizzard and Ubisoft teamed up to bring Genji into For Honor. Yeah, anyone who's got any sense is obviously gonna play this guy. Just look at him go. Look at him go.
Hrá Mozilla, ty vole. A to nepotřebuješ ani jednu mozkovou hemisféru.
Yeah! For real though, you should probably consider nerfing this motherfucker. He's a bit OP, I'm just saying. You can play For Honor a few different ways. First, there's Dominion, and this is a mode for if you're like a baby and you want to rely on gear and a bunch of teammates and some AI to help you win. This is a good one for you. There's also the 2v2 mode, and this is a good mode if one of your friends is like wicked good and you're kind of shit. You can pretty much let him 2v1 the opponents. And then the final mode, this is the one for like if you have balls. If you got big balls, you want to do the 1v1 mode. Where we really find out who the true warriors are.
Kurva, mám úplně chuť si to zapnout znova.
Only come into this mode if you got some skills. And the balls that I talked about before. Only if you got those balls.
Are you fuckboys out there? Trying to talk shit against me?
The game is being made by Ubisoft, which means...
Počkej, nebyl to Luca Very? WTF? To je Luca Very.
Out there? Trying to talk shit against me?
The game is being made by Ubisoft, which means perfect servers and connection. Fortunately, they're using state-of-the-art P2P technology. Seriously though? For Honor's a pretty fucking badass game. I played the
To je strašně skvělá hra, povedla se, ale prostě Ubisoft chtěl ušetřit za servery, no.
Na rohlíky.
A dal tam vyprcanej peer-to-peer multiplayer, takže všem to padalo. A nikdo se nemohl napojit na svoje kamarády. Kokoti. Proto chci For Honor 2. Ono by doslova stačilo tomu upnout grafiku, dát tomu nějaký servery a lidi by na to prostě všichni lehli jako muchy na hovno. Viny, děkuji ti za 32 měsíců, vítej zpět, děkuji moc.
Closed beta pretty much non-stop for like 20-30 hours. I have not been so engrossed in a game so quickly as I have For Honor. The combat system it really feels like fresh. It feels a lot like a brawling fighting game. I mean, I've really absolutely loved it. It rewards skill over button mashing, no questions asked. If you're smashing your face into the keyboard, you're gonna get absolutely smashed by anyone who knows what they're doing. With the 3-point attack and guard system, with blocks, dodging, parrying, deflecting, feinting attacks, and then all of the different combos and special skills that each of the heroes in this game has, there's a lot of depth to it.
Proto se to furt drží na trhu, no. Že není absolutně žádná hra, která by dělala podobně ten kombat jako For Honor.
It's a game that rewards practice and patience, and if you know what you're doing and you really learn your class.
A propos, dá se to nějak rozumně hrát bez ovladače. Hej, já jsem to většinu toho, co jsem to hrál na myši. Takže úplně na pohodu. Akorát mě sralo, že mám strašně citlivou myš, takže jsem ten guard nebyl schopný dávat ve správnej ten. A za asasíny se to nedá moc hrát, protože držíš ten guard vždycky v jednom místě. Nemáš tam výchozí bod jako na kontroleru, ze kterého bys to vždycky někam dával. Spíš dá se to hrát na ovladači. Já si myslím, že ovladač je optimální na to, no.
You're gonna outperform everyone around you, no questions asked. The game has a ton of progression. There's class progression where you unlock new skills and abilities.
Na tu hru,
There's a gear system that's used primarily in that 4v4 mode. 12 classes at launch, 12 maps with a bunch of different weather effects, day-night cycles, all these different variations. I think 60 total variations. There's also gonna be a story mode that they decided to add, but frankly, the combat and the multiplayer is where this game shines. Ubisoft supports this game at all like they have supported Rainbow Six Siege with adding new classes and new maps and new game modes over time. We could be looking at a winner here. For Honors, really, it's shaping up to be something special that I'm really excited about, and I think you guys should definitely
já taky po tom, co jsem si zahrál to demo na Gamescomu.
Everyone who tosses people off cliffs, fuck you, you pieces of shit. You got no skill. You can't fight me in real battle. You're not gonna actually win the fight. So all you do is you break my guard, you pick me up and throw me off a cliff. I'm so sick and tired of all these pieces of shit. Fucking no scrub ass fucking losers. Piece of shit, fucking dick. Oh my god, Ubisoft, take that out of the game, please.
YouTube v roce 2017, no. Doba, kdy se nikdo nemusel přetvařovat na internetu.